Hi and welcome back to the channel. I'm doing something different this time. I'm going to get all of you to help me select the movies I'm going to review for the next bit. It's going to be 10 movies, so arguably I'll do it over 3 videos and we'll just see how we go with this. They're all older films. Some of them are genre films, some of them aren't, but they're all classic older films. And I'm going to get you, the audience, and I'll do a point there. There you go. How's that? To help me pick them out. Now I'm going to do it a slightly unusual way, a way that I don't know if anybody else doing this kind of thing has done before. I'm going to do it based on the books of the movie. I've rated the shelves and I've got 35 books that were either turned into movies or were adapted into books from the movies, if you know what I mean. I'm going to put the list up in the show notes so you can pick 10 movies. I want you to only pick 10 of these movies and tell me which 10 you want me to review. I'll then compile it all and make lists and we will get the 10 of them reviewed. I'm going to start with a deep cut. This one's going to be a bit hard to find, but I can do it. Starring Elizabeth Taylor, Montgomery Clift, Lee Marvin and Rod Taylor. It's a novel by Ross Lockridge Jr. and it is Raintree County. This was a big MGM movie. Part the way through it, Montgomery Clift had a bad car accident and tore his face to pieces, so he looks a bit different later in the film than he does at the start. I've read the novel many years ago and I enjoyed it a lot. It's about the Civil War. It's about a guy called Johnny Shaughnessy and his life through the years of the Civil War, before, after and during. It's an epic movie, but the novel I think is a bit better. Now this is an old Pan-Giant edition of it and I'm not sure it will hold together long enough for me to read it, so I may try to find a Kindle version of it or something like that. But there's your number one movie, Raintree County. Great cast, big production values, didn't make a cent. Next one is again from the 1950s. This is a novel that I didn't know about. The movie that the novel's based on was what used to be known as a woman's film. I haven't read the novel, but I've seen the movie. And I think there's something that I want to say at some stage about women's films of the 1950s. There's some interesting sexual politics in it. There's great actors and actresses in it. And it brings a different viewpoint to Hollywood cinema. Anyway, 3 Coins in the Fountain, which was a movie starring, by the look of it, Clifton Webb, Louis Jourdan, Dorothy McGuire, Jean Peters, Maggie McNamara. Directed by John Nicolesco, who directed one of my favourite movies of the late 40s. A movie called Roadhouse, which has Ida Lupino in it. But 3 Coins in the Fountain. So that's your second one. Raintree County, 3 Coins in the Fountain. Don't worry, I'm going to get to genre films. By the way, I should show the back covers as well. There's the back cover of the last one. So next up, I love this film. I love it because it's got a big long sword fight in it. Based on the novel by Raphael Sabatini, Scaramouche, which had Stuart Granger, Mel Ferrer, Eleanor Parker's in it as well, and Janet Leigh. Great movie, and the novel's good too. The opening line of the novel, I'll read it to you because it's just the coolest opening line of a novel that I know of. He was born with the gift of laughter and a sense that the world was mad. That sets up the character of Andre Moreau, who ends up becoming a member of the French Parliament. It's a good swashbuckling story, what can I tell you. There's the back. There's a little bit of a tear on the back cover, which is unfortunate. Again, it's another one of those Pan-Giant editions. But some of Sabatini's work is in the public domain now, so you can find the novels if you want to. But let me know if you want me to do Scaramouche. Let's see, what will I do next? We'll do another great big movie. Seen this one a few times, and of course there's some interesting things to say about some of the lead characters. Luna Wallace, Ben-Hur. This is the original novel, which was known as A Story of the Christ. This is the movie edition, of course, because it's got Charlton Heston's mug there. I haven't had a look at Ben-Hur on my 4K TV yet, so it might be worth doing. So there's your 4th one, Ben-Hur. Got to be careful where I put these, otherwise the tripod's going to go west. This one's actually the book. I think it's the book that... Let me have a look. I think the book came before the movie with this one, but I'm not sure. Directed by William Castle, no less. Written by Robert Bloch, who wrote Psycho, amongst other things. The Night Walker, which is a movie starring Robert Taylor and Barbara Stanwyck, with a script by Robert Bloch as well. I've seen this once, but I want to watch it again. So it's a kind of horror movie about a middle-aged woman with a middle-aged lover, played by her Robert Taylor, I think, who was married to Barbara Stanwyck at some stage. There's the back of it with the 2 stars on the back cover. Is that in focus? Yeah. Yeah, this is an old award books American paperback that I picked up somewhere along the lines. But I wanted to rewatch that movie anyway, so I may well do it anyway. But let me know whether you want that one. So moving right along, this was a very early Faye Dunaway movie, which also has Anthony Quinn, and it'll tell me on the back. Here's the cast: Anthony Quinn, Michael Parks, George Maharis, Robert Walker, Martha Hyer, and introducing Faye Dunaway. The Happening. It's one of those crazy Hollywood movies that they made when they thought they knew what youth culture wanted, but they didn't actually know what youth culture wanted. Directed by Elliot Silverstein, it is. And yeah, there's the back of it with a few of the pictures from the movie itself. Kind of mid-60s weird movie, which actually I don't remember much about. The next one's from is it the 1980s? I think it may be. If not, the late 1970s. One of the most interesting Sherlock Holmes movies for me, because it's got an interesting take on Sherlock Holmes. Written by Nicholas Meyer, who also directed Star Trek 2, The 7% Solution, which I like a lot. It's got Nicole Williamson playing Sherlock Holmes and Robert Duvall playing Dr. Watson. So that's your next possibility, The 7% Solution. Good film. I'm not entirely in love with Robert Duvall's accent, but I love the way he gives us a stronger Watson than had previously been the case in a lot of movies. I'll put this one up next because it's a movie I don't really want to do for the channel because it's going to raise all sorts of stuff, but I think it's an important movie anyway. Let's have a look. Good cast: Maximilian Schell, Spencer Tracy, Burt Lancaster, Richard Widmark, Marlene Dietrich, Montgomery Clift, and Judy Garland. Judgment at Nuremberg by Abby Mann. Now, if you haven't seen this movie, it's a gut wrencher, and that's why they got the big Oscar there. It definitely got things. The back of it's a little bit bare bones, but an interesting movie nonetheless. Next one is one of the first great juvenile delinquent movies, based on a novel by Evan Hunter, which is what I actually have here. The Blackboard Jungle from the 1950s with Glenn Ford, Sidney Poitier in it, and Francis and Louis Calhern. There's the groovy cover on this edition, and on the back they've got just a big still from the movie as well. Let me know if you want me to do Blackboard Jungle. This one's going to be kind of interesting. A novel by Richard Mason. I think this is another one. Judgment at Nuremberg, I know, was given to me by my good friend Ivor Cole, who died last year. Great artist. He was a broadcaster. He was a musicologist. And he gave me a few movie-related novels when he was getting rid of things about a decade ago. And this is among them. It's a movie that doesn't get talked about much because the racial politics in it's a little bit sketchy. But it's The World of Suzie Wong with Nancy Kwan and William Holden in it. Interesting film nonetheless. It says daring and different on the back, which means it's about an interracial romance, which got a few people fulminating at various times in the 1950s and 1960s for reasons we now go about. There's a few more to go, so just sit back, pause the video if you need to, get a cup of coffee, get a drink, whatever you want to do. We'll keep this going. This movie was made twice. There was an English version made and an American version made very soon after each other in the 1930s, 1940s. Novel by Patrick Hamilton. It says by Patrick Hamilton, novelised by William Drummond, so I think it may have been a stage play originally. It's got a woman who looks very, very like Ingrid Bergman on the front. Gaslight. If you haven't seen Gaslight, interesting. It's where they get the term gaslighting from. It's a term that's used very loosely for something very specific in the novel. And there's your back cover. It'll be an interesting one to do. It says presented on the stage as Angel Street, but people know it as Gaslight. So let me know if you want me to do that one. It'll be a really cool one to do because there's almost too much to say about it. Here we go. I didn't know I'd put this one in the list. I did. I put this one in the pile. I grabbed a whole bunch off the shelf that you can't see there. And this one's kind of interesting. So let me know if this is going to be in your 10. Novel by a guy called Ray Rigby. Turned into a very gritty black and white crime prison drama in the 1960s. The Hill with Sean Connery. And I think it's also got Harry Andrews in it, if I recall correctly. Directed by Sidney Lumet. There's the back of it. Yeah, that one may well end up getting on the list. I think people are going to like that one. So I'll put that down there because I'm running out of room underneath the tripod. This one is one that I know a lot of people love. It's a novelisation by a guy called Russell Clawton of a late 1970s movie, which has a tremendous cast. Let's have a look. Bob Hoskins, Helen Mirren, Brian Marshall, Eddie Constantine, The Long Good Friday. So they did actually do a novelisation of this. One of the great British crime movies of all time. There's the back. It's just got some words on it. Doesn't have much. There's your Bob Hoskins on the front. I'm going to watch that one anyway. I know I've got a Blu-ray of that one that I picked up a couple of years ago. I haven't watched it, but I'm going to. This one is a classic. I like this movie much more than the sequel, even though Scorsese made the sequel to it. It was written by the same guy who wrote The Man Who Fell to Earth, Walter Tevis. The Hustler. With the wonderful Paul Newman, Jackie Gleason, and Piper Laurie. Really great film, filmed wonderfully. There's the back of it. It doesn't have any movie-related stuff on it, but let me know if you want me to do The Hustler, because I'd be very happy to do so. There's a lot of these ones I'd be very happy to do as well. They're just fantastic movies. This one, I know that Imprint did a version of the movie. Put out a really good Blu-ray release of it, I think last year or the year before. Based on a novel by Thomas Harris, who also did Silence of the Lambs. Black Sunday, which the movie version has the wonderful Bruce Dern playing a total nutcase in it. An international terrorist organisation vows revenge against the American people. And there's the back. I think this one may even predate the movie coming out. Let me just have a look. Maybe, maybe not. But there's a really nice cover painting on this one. It's an art that doesn't happen very much in novels these days. This one, Terry Gilliam movie, that's all you need to say. Based on the wonderful kind of novel by the wonderful Huntress Thompson. This is a really shitty edition because it's been worn to tears over the years. Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. If you haven't read this one, where the hell have you been? Fantastic kind of romantic Clay Thompson going to Las Vegas. Even though it does star Johnny Depp, doesn't it, the movie? Yeah. And there's the back cover. Wonderful cover illustration by the miraculously good Ralph Steadman. Yeah, that might be fun to do for the channel at some stage. Now this one, it's kind of lateral because there's a Vincent Price movie which is incredibly loosely based on this novel. Confessions of an Opium Eater. It's called Confessions of an English Opium Eater, but there's a really groovy Vincent Price movie called this, which is worth checking out, and I may well add to the list myself if nobody else does. If you haven't seen the movie, it's got the craziest dialogue of any Vincent Price movie, and I think I can say that safely. This is the Wordsworth edition. There's the back cover of it. So that one would be groovy. Now this is a novelisation, now a major motion picture, it says. 1980s kind of crime drama. 1981 it says. Starring Susan Hubley, Wings Hauser, directed by Gary A. Sherman. Vice Squad, novelisation by William Rotsler. Now William Rotsler made a whole bunch of kind of nudie films in the 1960s and was a very big part of science fiction fandom. in the 70s, 80s and 90s. I've actually got in an envelope somewhere some kind of cartoon drawings by William Rotsler, which were given to me. But Vice Squad with Wings Hauser and Susan Hubley might be fun. One of the last great movies that John Huston directed. A really great epic adventure of the British Raj, let's say, starring Sean Connery and Michael Caine and Christopher Plummer playing Rudyard Kipling, the man who will be king. Yeah, this one's kind of cool. There's the back cover with the three main white people from the movie in it. That might be fun to do too. I know it's had a really good release recently, and I think I've got it. Now, I've lost count of the movies here, so I may not get to 35, but I'll give you a fair chunk of movies to pick from on these. This one's a Clint Eastwood movie, but I like it in spite of that. Novels are better. This and its sequel are really great, and there's a third novel by the mysterious author, Trevanian, which is called Shibumi, which is worth checking out as well. It's the Iger section with Clint Eastwood. It's got George Kennedy in it, Jack Cassidy, whole bunch of other people. Really an interesting novel and an interesting movie. It's a spy thriller. It's about mountain climbing as well, and it's a Clint Eastwood movie where Clint Eastwood's playing a slightly less Clint Eastwood role, which is always a good thing. There's the back with just a whole bunch of blurbs on it. And I'm going to probably have to change the battery very soon on the camera. Let's have a look here. This one you know and love. One of the great action movies of the first half of the 1960s. Guns of Navarone by Alistair MacLean. A really great film. Force 10 for Navarone, of course, is the sequel, which is a pretty good movie, even though it does have Harrison Ford in it. But there's the original Guns of Navarone. I don't have Force 10 from Navarone in paperback, and that's got the worst possible cover to show on a camera. But there it is. There's that. This one I'm going to go left field here because this is a kind of obscure one. Tennessee Williams, we all know him from Streetcar Named Desire. This one's The Roman Spring of Mrs. Stone, which is a movie. Who was in the movie? I think it may have been Janet Leigh. No, sorry. I think it may have been Vivian Leigh was in this one. But there it is, Tennessee Williams. Picture of Tennessee Williams on the back, which, not a pretty man, but he did right well. Told you the battery conked on me. This one's a movie from the early 50s and a novel upon which the movie was based. It's the only movie I know where you got Ernest Borgnine playing an Amish guy. It's also got Victor Mature in it, which is really good. Violent Saturday. If you haven't seen Violent Saturday, one of the great 50s crime dramas that nobody talks about. Really great film and well shot as well. Here's the back cover. I think it may even be less than novel length because it's not a thick book. But if you haven't seen Violent Saturday, I recommend you see that. And I'm happy to review it. This one I like, and this was another one that Ivor gave me. This one I like because it's one of those movies from the 50s where there's an incredible age gap between the romantic leads, and it makes it almost feel kind of icky. One of the last movies made by one of the big stars of the 30s and 40s. It was made in the late 50s, shot on the island of Capri. It started in Naples, which is kind of a weird movie in that it's Clark Gable at the end of his career and Sophia Loren playing the love interest at the start. It's got some great stuff in it. It's got Sophia Loren singing and dancing, which is kind of cool. But the interesting thing is when actually, if you wanted me to do a review of this, I'll tell you the story of what happened to Clark Gable while they were making the movie. So there's that. This one has been made twice, and I like the first version better than the second. Written by Ira Levin, who wrote Rosemary's Baby and Boys from Brazil and things like that. One of the first movies about a psycho serial killer from the modern era. I mean, there was M, of course, but A Kiss Before Dying, which had in it, let me see who was in it. Robert Wagner was in the original version, and that's the version I like. It was shot in the desert of Arizona, I think, and a really interesting film. Back of it again is very bare bones because this is one of the reprint versions, but Kiss Before Dying is an interesting film, which I do like much better than the remake. If you haven't seen the movie version of this one, you really should, because the whole movie is shot first person point of view for Raymond Chandler's protagonist, Philip Marlowe, and it's Lady in the Lake, which the movie has Robert Montgomery and Audrey Totter in it, and it's shot all point of view from Raymond Chandler's detective's point of view. You see him in a mirror now and then. Big technical achievement to get it done with the big boxy cameras they had at the time, but novel's pretty good too, but the movie itself is wonderful and kind of a hidden gem detective movie. So there's your hint on the fact that I want to review that. I don't know whether I'm going to get to 35. I counted 35 there, but I've chucked some out because they weren't exactly what I wanted. But I'll go up to the shelf and grab a few more and continue this. No, this isn't the continuity area. This is me filming the last 6 novels and movies hours later because the first lot glitched. So this next one's a crime novel and a crime movie from the early 1970s. It's about 50 years old now, the movie. And it's a classic of the genre. It stars our good friend Michael Caine. Get Carter. That's the original novel by Ted Lewis. Really fine novel too. I read it a number of years ago, and it really is hardcore, and it gives you the feel of the north of England. And it's probably, for me, one of the 5 or 6 best Michael Caine movies. So let me know if you want me to do that one, because it is rock solid. Now, paranoia was very big in the 1970s, and it's pretty big in the 2020s as well. This one is one of Alan J. Pakula's Paranoia trilogy movies. It's a novel by Lauren Singer, upon which the movie was based. The Parallax View. Now, I know that Imprint put out a really good version of this on Blu-ray this year, and maybe in late last year, but The Parallax View, wonderful paranoid thriller with Warren Beatty, Paula Prentice, Hume Cronin and William Daniels in it. I really should pick up that imprint. It may be out of print now, but I've usually got a way of finding these things. But I know I've got a DVD copy of it, but the Blu-ray I think is something I probably need to get. Yeah, that one would be interesting to do as well. Mentioned this one before because the Blu-ray has been released in England and it's pretty damn good. Wolf Mankiewicz's Espresso Bongo. I keep saying espresso, but it's Espresso Bongo, which is a very funny movie about sleazy bottom feeders around Soho in the 1950s in London. It stars Lawrence Harvey, Sylvia Sims and Cliff Richard in a very kind of Cliff Richardy role in a way. Very funny, a lot of fun, and inevitably at some stage I will do this movie in the channel, but let me know if you want it to be one of the 10. This one's got a hell of a cast in it. This one's based on the novel by James Jones, who also wrote From Here to Eternity. Some Came Running. Vincente Minnelli made the movie. It's got Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin and Shirley MacLaine in it. Really good movie. I want to see it on the 4K if I possibly can. Novel's a bit fat to reread at the moment, but I'm not sure I'm ever going to read that, to be honest with you. But I do want to watch the movie again. I really like the way the movie plays out. And the cinematography is first rate. Serious role for Dean Martin, and I like that a lot. Next one, I know I've got this movie on DVD because it's in my Carol Baker collection, along with a copy of The Carpetbaggers, which I then bought the imprint Blu-ray of because it was such a good Blu-ray adaptation of the original movie. But this is a bit of a deep cut. It's a black and white film from 1965. It stars Carol Baker, George Maharis. It's got a lot of character actors as guest stars, including people like Peter Lawford. It's called Sylvia, and this is the novel upon which it was based. Now, the movie is great. It's got a lot of things to say about the way women are treated in society. It's got a lot of stuff to talk about sex work in a very non-pejorative way, which amazes me. And I really want to do a deep dive on that movie because I think it's really worth mentioning and giving a bit of love to, because it is very much a movie ahead of its time and a novel ahead of its time as well. E.V. Cunningham did a whole bunch of novels with women's names as the titles, and they're all about different kinds of novels. There was another one called Phyllis, but yeah, I found that one on eBay after I found out that the movie was based on a novel, so I picked it up. It's a fairly old pan paperback, but it's in very good nick. In some ways I've left the best from the last. This is as close in paperback form as you're going to get to a Blu-ray edition of a movie with a lot of extras in it and a lot of documentary footage and a lot of other stuff as well. It's not exactly a novel. It's very unusual, and it's one of the iconic movies of the late 1960s. Directed by Dennis Hopper, starring Dennis Hopper, Peter Fonda and Jack Nicholson. Easy Rider. Now this is not a novel. What this is the script for the movie, and I'll show you a bit of it there with some pictures and a bunch of essays about the movie. There's an essay by Dennis Hopper about making the film. There's an essay about Dennis Hopper making the film. There's an essay about Jack Nicholson. There's an essay about the soundtrack to Easy Rider. There's the Rolling Stone interview with Peter Fonda about it. And there's an introduction to the movie by an academic. So it feels a lot like a Blu-ray prestige release with a lot of extras. And I love it for that. It really is something just a bit different. It's not a novelization. It's not a novel upon which a movie is based. It's a book wrapped around the movie. And you've got to remember, when this movie came out, people couldn't own a copy of it 6 months later. They could go back to the cinema and see it again, and they had to rely on their memory after that. So books like this and novelizations and all of that kind of thing were the way people remembered movies best, because if they came on TV, they only come on every 2 or 3 years at awkward hours. You didn't have a way of recording them at that stage, and a movie like Easy Rider wasn't likely to come onto TV uncut. So having something like this is a movie buff's way of owning the movie, in a sense, and that makes it a really interesting piece of work for me. So there are the movies now. By my count, I've got 31 of them. 31 books. Pick 10 out, any 10 out of them. It shouldn't be difficult to do. Let me know what your 10 are. I'm going to list them, as I said, in the notes for the video. And in about a week or so's time, I'll tally everything up and let you know what it is. So, a couple of things. First off, on Wednesday, I'm taking the train up to Sydney and spending about 4 days up there and coming back Sunday night, Monday morning. Let me know in the comments of this video as well whether you want me to vlog the trip to Sydney, because I will. And I'm going to some interesting places, so I'm looking forward to it, catching up with family, catching up with friends. Going to have a really good time and just kind of groove on that. But I've got the feeling I've got a vlog in me for this one, so let me know if you want to see it. The other thing is, if you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, leave a comment and hit the notification bell. You can also support the channel by going to patreon.com/paleocinema. Sydney's got a lot more COVID than Melbourne is, so I'm going to be very careful when I'm up there. By the way, the cough I've got in my throat now is because of the dust in all these books. It's not the spicy cough. Anyway, look after yourselves. Watch some great movies, watch some old movies, watch some movies based on novels and novels based on movies. And I'll catch you next time.